For that, let's bring in Tommy Tuberville, Alabama Senator and gubernatorial candidate for that great state of Alabama. Coach, great to see you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. First of all, don't you love it that now we have these deficit hawks on the Democrat side?
David, my first 2 years up here, the Democrats passed two bills in 2021 that was $4 trillion with no way to pay for it. $4 trillion. And all we did was pay off all the blue state mayors and governors because they were all underwater. They don't know how to run a budget. And so now they're complaining that we're actually saving $1.7 trillion in this bill. It's just hypocrisy is all it is.
And guess what? That $4 trillion figure comes up again in a different context because every single Democrat just voted in favor of raising taxes by $4 trillion on Americans. That's essentially what they did, right?
Exactly. That's all they did. You know, the Democrats complain about this bill, and 2/3 of it is actually saving all Americans. In my state alone, if you make $50,000, you save $2,200 a year. And it's amazing to me that we're cutting taxes, but we're the bad guy in this whole situation. So around 8 or 9 hours from now, this bill will pass through the Senate. Vote-a-rama will be over with. We'll pass this bill at the end. It'll be at the House. The House will pass it in the next couple of days. President Trump will sign it, and we'll be off and running.
So Clint Eastwood is one of my favorite actors of all time. I say that because he was once in a movie called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And I would describe the bill a little bit like that because it's not all good. There were certain things that Republicans had to do to get some other Republicans involved. There were certain things that the parliamentarian did, that the CBO did, that I'm not too crazy about. But what is your assessment? When you look at the whole thing, what would you have liked to have gotten in that didn't, and what do you think is the best things in it?
Well, first of all, 2/3 of the bill is the tax cuts, which obviously we've got to get done. It's necessary. Then 1/3 of the bill is we're reforming most of the agencies, which is Medicaid, school loans, all those things that are really costing us a lot of money. Dave, right now we have 47 million young Americans that are in debt with student loans for $1.7 trillion. We can't sustain that. We can't sustain it. So we've done some work on that. We've done some work on Medicaid. Medicaid is basically reforming it, kicking people off that's not supposed to be on there, illegals and people that should be working. So all this, most of it is good. Sometimes you hate to do things that you know is going to put people in a situation where they're going to be uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, we all have to adjust to this because we can't keep spending the way we're spending right now. We can't do it.
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that because I remember Bill Clinton, of all people, saying something similar to that back in the 1990s when he was working with Newt Gingrich on workfare. And they came up with a damn good way of reforming welfare, getting people who are equipped to do so to get a job in order to get assistance if the job isn't giving enough to take care of the family, et cetera. You have a similar, and that's one thing the parliamentarian left in there. Am I correct on that, the workfare component of Medicaid?
Yeah, you're correct, and you're right. Bill Clinton was the last president that even brought anything up to do with work for any kind of entitlement. You know, we're doing stuff for SNAP, we're doing for Medicaid, again, the student loans, all those things are in a situation where if we don't adjust those, David, we're not ever going to be able to get to a situation where we can pay our debt down at all. Reform and growth of the country is going to make this country grow, and the tariffs along with that. But when you're fighting against all these things where we're spending too much money with people that should be working and paying into the system instead of taking out, we've got huge problems.
You know, another crack from the Democrats about the bill is that it's only for the rich. Of course, we hear that. We heard that in 2017. We heard it from 2017 until now. But they're saying that about even though there are tax breaks for real blue-collar workers, whether they're waitresses. For God's sakes, AOC was a waitress. She must know what good news that is for her former colleagues and waiting staffs and bartenders. And of course, all the Uber drivers, et cetera, but also for overtime. And that's something that the parliamentarian left in as well, right? You do have the tax breaks for overtime, which we're going to have Art Laffer up next. He thinks that's a very pro-growth policy.
No, I don't think there's any doubt to that, and it's what President Trump ran on. All those are still in there. Thank goodness the parliamentarian that I had some doubts about did not kick that out. Those things were good. The other thing, for even not just for my state, but all the other states that have farmers, our farmers actually are being given a break in this, David. Our farmers have absolutely pretty much gone under. Most of them have not made any money for 4 years. 150,000 farms have gone under in the last 4 years under Joe Biden. If we don't stop this trend, we're going to be buying our food from every other country except the United States.
You know, it comes down to the overall message that Donald Trump has come out with. We have to build things here. We have to make things here, including food, including cattle, but also factories. And there is a lot of stuff in there that's going to help factories as well to bring manufacturing, to bring building stuff that we used to go outsource for, bringing it back home.
Yeah, and then we've got to do our job, David, of getting workforce development. We've got to make sure that we employ Americans to do American jobs. We can't bring in people to do our job from other countries. People here have to use their hands, learn to use their hands. Our younger generation has to grow up and understand it's not just sitting behind a computer. There's a lot of good ways that you can make a lot of money other than being behind a computer, using your hands, electricians, plumbers, those types of things.
Well, and by the way, a recent poll showed that 25, I think it was a Pew poll, 25% of Americans say they would consider a manufacturing job if, in fact, it paid them more. So if the incentives are there, we only have about 9% of workers now in factories. If 25% are willing to go there for better pay, I think they'll do fine. I just want to pull back a little. We talked about President Trump, but this has been an extraordinary week for him. Both internationally and domestically with the SCOTUS decisions and, of course, the movement of the bill. I just want to play a little soundbite from an interview he had with Maria Bartiromo about this past week and a half. Roll that tape.
We went in, we destroyed their nuclear capability, and we stopped. It was a beautiful thing. We made a deal pretty much with India. We made a deal with China. We made a deal with UK. We have auto companies building plants where they wouldn't have built here in 100 years. We have more investment in the United States right now than we've ever had before. You would have a local federal judge who was radical left determining the policy for the whole nation, and now they can't do that anymore.
Like you've said, you brought wealth back to America.
Wealth and spirit back. We have spirit. People respect our country again.
And Senator, the response, that was a week and a half of the Trump administration. A week and a half of the Democrats are essentially the big reveal of their socialist candidate for New York City mayor. I mean, you compare the two parties right now, and again, I wish that they were more on target with how Americans feel, but I don't think they are.
Oh, no, that's ridiculous. But, you know, this is the best 6 months I've ever seen for a president. Especially in his second term. You know, David, one thing about President Trump, I'm around him quite a bit. I played a lot of golf with him, got to know him quite a bit the last 8 years, and everybody asked me, what do you think makes President Trump successful? President Trump will make a decision. He will make it and make it for the United States of America, nobody else. And that's the reason he ran on the American First agenda. He makes decisions for America. When you make decisions, you usually have a good chance of something happening. But if you sit back and lean and just let things happen on their own, you're not going to make anything happen. We had to make something happen in this country, and President Trump's the guy to do that. And we're glad he's president, or thank God he's president, to be honest with you.
And, you know, I don't want to push this too much because, frankly, it's so out to lunch, but the Democrats, Jamal Bowman just came in, and I think we have a soundbite of him talking about what he thinks Americans want from economic policy. Let me just roll that and get your quick reaction. Roll it.
The word socialism is weaponized as some kind of, anti-American thing. And, Senator Gillibrand and others seem to have fallen victim to that level of ignorance and miseducation. Democracy is on the precipice of falling apart. The Democratic Party has to save American democracy. And leaning into Zoran and others who are stars in our party.
Ignorance, misinformation. I mean, does he know what's happened to socialist regimes in the 20th century? More millions of people died under socialist regimes than any other regime in the history of mankind. That actually 71% of Americans prefer free market capitalism to, I think it's 12% for socialism. So, I mean, why do they keep going up this route when clearly it ain't working?
Well, David, you and I remember Venezuela when they were one of the richest countries in the world. Socialism took effect, and they're now one of the poorest countries because you can't just live off everybody else. You have to go out and do the job and work. These people don't remember history. I don't think we teach history anymore in our schools, but we better start learning it because there's not one time in our lifetime that socialism's even come close to working. And so, well, that's not going to happen in the United States of America. There are a lot of things that will have to happen before we even get close to that.
Right.
You can have them talk about it in these big blue cities, but it's not going to happen in overall in this country.
I hope not. I pray not, and I don't think it will. Really quick, they're giving me a wrap, but I have to ask, will the president on Friday, July 4th, have the bill on his desk?
Yes, he'll have it on his desk. They're doing the work in the House as we speak. We'll get it done tonight. The Democrats are trying to slow play it, but we're going to get it done. And then the House, it's up to them. And President Trump, hopefully on July the 4th, will sign it on our 249th birthday of this country.
Senator Tommy Tuberville, stay safe on the campaign trail. I know you're planning to be the next governor of your state, so good luck on their campaign travels. I appreciate you coming. Have a wonderful July 4th, sir. Thank you so much.